I don't know. I feel a certain atmosphere, some inspiring atmosphere, living in Norway. It's not easy to explain. Uh, it's just the way most Norwegians feel. You're stuck to Norway, you know. You just love your country.
I definitely feel I'm dealing with tradition. I don't feel like a fucking pioneer. We never went out and did Darkthrone for other things than tradition. I was jamming with some guys, we call ourselves Black Death, and it was awful. Like any other band starting out, it's just awful. We didn't know how to play, and we were influenced by everything from Celtic Frost to Cryptic Slaughter, which is basically like California-based or whatever weird spastic hardcore act. I kept like one member from there, and we just went on. Changed the name to Darkthrone in the fall of '87, and things got more serious. I recorded first shitty demo tape like in early '88. And then one guy that I knew called me up and said, "Do you need a guitar player?" And yeah, sure, we need a guitar player. That was Nocturnal Culto.
The first meeting with Fenris went very well. Yeah, we came along, and I started playing with them straight away.
We would make the sort of riffs, you could say, that they're doing in horror movie music, and we're just playing that like metal.
I started in Mayhem in March 1988. First met Euronymous, I gave him like a demo tape of me playing the drums. It was like double bass and blast beats in there, and it was like, yeah, okay, you're in the band. We got along very good from the first moment. I met Dead, which was a Swedish guy, and of course Necrobutcher. First time I saw him was going into his apartment, and a guy with very long hair sitting there, and like if the shotgun over his knee, like this, looking very hard. Oh, hello, I'm Necro. You're the new drummer, eh? Yes, I am. I guess that Euronymous heard a demo tape of you and stuff. Yeah, I said, yeah. I liked it, I guess. Okay. So I thought, well, are we going to get friends, or? The first years, with me, Euronymous and Necrobutcher was like, I really felt that, okay, this is the band I want to be with, because we really had something special going on.
In 1989, I got in touch with these guys who played more extreme heavy metal, not this Iron Maiden type of guys, but and they played more seriously. They had bands, and they corresponded with other musicians in something they call the death metal underground. It's like an international network of youth playing heavy metal, extreme heavy metal music. And basically, the reason they had this underground was because the system didn't tolerate this music, or it wasn't commercial enough, so they weren't interested. So they had to do it themselves. They just photocopied magazines and sold them to their friends and people they corresponded with. So that was my first contact with the more serious, so to speak, heavy metal underground. Anyway, I joined a band called Old Funeral. After a while, I found out that we didn't have the same musical taste, and also the culture they were in, were very alien to me. There was like they embraced more the things that I didn't like hamburger culture and stuff like that.
I started out playing punk and early rock and roll and stuff like that, and then we started to play some metal and Sodom death metal stuff. Then I got my first Venom video, my first Battery album, and that was it. I wanted to start doing stuff that I do now. That was my destiny,
The guy from Immortal, Harald, and me, we decided, we'd go to Oslo and meet these guys we were corresponding with. He had met them before. We got into contact with Gylve from Darkthrone, Åsat and Mayhem. We talked about music in general and agreed that the whole music scene as well had been corrupted by America again. because of the Tampa production, so-called. All the bands started to sound the same.
All these bands call themselves death metal, and there was nothing grim about it. There was just these guys playing in their sneakers and shorts and banging their heads and playing brutal, cool music, but so fucking what,
And this is probably the time of the birth of so-called black metal. And black metal initially was meant as a rebellion against death metal. Close to everybody agreed on that point, that, no way for Norwegians. And that was a big point, actually, because this rebellion against the Tampa, Florida sound was also a Norwegian rebellion against the world. It's Norway against the rest. So that explains why there were no other so-called black metal bands in the world at the time except in Norway.
We said, fuck it. We're gonna play primitive black metal. This is what we listen to, this is what we're feeling right now. And we were one of the first in the 90s doing that.
We played black metal the way we wanted it to be. I mean, Venom was like... I wanted to be like the fastest, dirtiest man in the world, and sing about things that repelled people like Satan and murder and stuff like that, I mean, they really didn't take it too seriously, like we did.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of criticism that we misinterpreted Venom, for instance, or Celtic Frost. But, we knew that this is our interpretation. We're taking it further.
These people were playing a game and that these people were making an illusion, but I think they played a game that we all could enjoy and like to participate.
Every death metal album, every thrash metal album basically had painted cover, cover art. And people hadn't seen photos. Well, the underground knew that Mayhem used corpse paint and shit, but people in general looking through the vinyls and CD racks, they were just like, what the hell is this? A blast from the past? This is cold.
I mean, it was not like that, well, guys, now let's put on some corpse paint and get some photos. It was like, for us, it was like kind of a ritual. We were wearing corpse paint without taking photos. I mean, we just disappeared in some desolate place. Always very silent, we didn't say a word. It was inspiring for us as a band. We did take a camera with us and take some photos, which was not really like we were posing, but it was more of a natural thing.
You fucking dress up, you have the candles and you just walk in the fucking forest. I did that. Varg Vikernes did it. It's part of the deal.
This is the basement of our famous shop, Helvete.
We wanted the real customers and the black metal people to feel right at home, as well as we wanted the people who didn't belong there to just back off and get the hell out.
It looked like hell in there. So the name really suits the environment inside there.
In the summer of 91, I went to the Helvete shop run by Euronymous for the first time. And that was like a kick in the back. It was very dark inside the shop. And there were upside down crosses. People wearing bizarre outfits with, dark clothes, a lot of spikes. Makeup and that kind of stuff. I used black clothes myself, but they had taken it a bit further then. And the atmosphere I felt there and then was that kind of atmosphere that I had wanted to feel in a place all my life. Like, this was the place of my dreams.
I guess I was more excited than the other guys in Darkthrone. I like to hang out there and sit and drink and talk, discuss things and talk shit, shoot the fucking breeze.
Euronymous and Mayhem and all that stuff going on in the early 90s was very influential. And I think that Euronymous as a character was extremely angry and upset And today, I might have redefined my own opinions of the guy, but he was certainly very influential.
All the mythology is written down by Christians, and they've kind of written in a humoristic way, you know, like with this certain Christian arrogance, just laughing at the religion.
It's no borders anymore, to any country. So everybody's influenced by something, But even I'm influenced by several foreign things, But as go for Norway, it's like nothing can really compare to it for me.
Talking about this, you're just entering a minefield. You don't know. And what you say is gonna blow up. I mean, let's face it, national romance sounds like national socialism, and then you're fucked. And then when we're starting to put our heads in with the national romantic people that basically just want to dress up for our national day and hail our fjords, I mean, it's all just a big mess.
National socialism and paganism in Norway and in any other European country, especially Northern Europe, can be lit like this because it's our archetypes, it's our nature, it's a natural philosophy of life, it's our philosophy of life. A state church is a church built by the architecture of the early Middle Ages, and it's called the stave church because the church is built on 4 different poles, what we call staves. It has a very peculiar look. It's the roof is like snake skin, and there are dragons, like on a dragon ship, Viking ship. Sure, they say they have historical value, religious value, and all this, but what they fail to remember is the fact that if you take, for instance, Fantov Stave Church, the church was built in another county in Norway, and they moved the church, I think, in the 19th century to this spot. Originally, the place was an old pagan holy site. It was, top of a mountain or a hill, but a hill, where our forefathers used to celebrate the sun and the life-giving nature of the sun. The area has a natural circle in the ground and a hog that is a pagan temple. It's a really basically just a pile of rocks symbolizing the breast of Mother Earth. And what the Christians did was to move this church from another place and put it not close to this holy site, but on top of it, in the midst of the circle, actually breaking up the circle. And on the pagan hog, they put a big stone cross. So if they have no respect for the Norwegian culture, why on earth should Norwegians respect their culture?
The media managed to portray anyone who would have long hair and black hair and a leather jacket to be a part of this criminal scene.
My 16th birthday, me and Grutle was celebrating. We were at some kind of pub. I sneaked my way in there. I was obviously not old enough. Go back on the street, and the last thing I remember hearing is like, "You fucking Satanist" or something. And there's like 40-year-old family father with a black belt in karate. He just jumps up and kicks me in the back, of my head. and starts pounding my head in the pavement and stuff. I was shit drunk, so I couldn't resist. So I wake up the next morning in the hospital, my head's cracked and shit. And it's like, what the fuck? He's been reading like a newspaper, one page, which, you know, tipped him over. He wanted to beat up somebody with long hair and like black clothes, whatever.
A lot of black metal bands today, you know, they kind of say no to political views and stuff like that. There are a few bands who do have that, you know, and I mean, maybe not as, you know, clearly as Burzum, you know.
I try to change the scene, like influencing the others, and more effectively influencing Åset, because they were listening to him, a lot of them, and he was the center of this record shop. Of the customers, he talked to the customers, so the best way to influence anybody was to go through him. And I tried to do that, and it was pretty successful. And but you know, it's no point in preaching for a bunch of morons, really. Åset started to address the problem with me. I was the problem, you know. I was the cause of all of this. So he started to perceive me as the problem, not a problem, but the problem.
He promised the band a little bit too much because he had like signed like 6 or 7 bands.
Several people started to dislike him because he gave them the impression that he almost as if he was organizing all of it. That is what he wanted it to look like. He started to talk about this black metal mafia, this mob, and he wanted to look as if he was some godfather of some organization, and he told that in interviews. And for a while we got along with it for fun, but of course to him it was dead serious in the sense that he wanted to be like that, you know. He wanted to be a mob sort of organization, but of course the others didn't. So, and of course then everything falls apart. He can't be a mob all by himself, can he? You know?
How many records actually came out on Death Like Science? 2 or 3, I don't know.
We were very disappointed in Åset because he had these great plans and he never put any of them. He never did anything. He just spoke.
We expected a lot from Mayhem. We was promised a lot too. Things really didn't happen at all, you know.
I also disclosed him as a parasite economically. He was like using others economically, and he didn't pay his bills and all this stuff like that.
The artist actually started to ask about where's the money, where's the royalty? And that was difficult again, because this money he has like invested in other projects, you know, like future projects. So I mean, kind of business is that to run? It doesn't work that way.
All of this added up to a confrontation because I was like the reason everything, all of this happened, or so he believed, of course, rightfully. But anyway. I had driven the car from Bergen to Oslo, 8 hours. I had some naps on the way, because when the other guy was driving, and killed the guy. On the way back home, we had to drive a big, what do you call it, omvei. On the way back from Oslo, we drove a different way. And I had to, you know, get rid of the clothes. A friend of mine had a sweatshirt in the back, and I luckily had a pair of pants in the car, you know, on the floor, you know. And so I got rid of the clothes and everything. We had to escape police. Actually, I drove away from the police. You know, typical bad luck. On the way back, we thought that okay, we had to phone somebody in Bergen, you know, a friend of mine, so he could start making up an alibi. And in a town called Hønefoss, we found a phone booth, but there was a lot of youth, you know, gathered around it. So we just drove on, found another one. We stopped the car, and it was broken. and you know, it didn't work. So the other guy was, I was in the car. The other guy found out that the phone was broken, and the police came. I know, and he was very suspicious. You know, in retrospective, I believe that probably this gang of youth had, you know, ruined the telephone. You know, they kicked it and broken the glass and everything, and they had moved on to the next phone booth. And of course, the policeman thought that we were the ones. You know, it was typical bad luck. You just killed a guy, and the police think you're ruining phone booths. You know? So he turned around and started to follow us. And luckily, I had been in the town a couple of times before, so I knew that by the train station you could turn right and just, you know, drive to the main road. And we were driving faster and faster, and the police just followed us. And when I came to the train station, I just, you know, drove like a maniac to get away. You know, and we got away. He didn't, you know, we never saw him again. When I arrived back home, first I had to go to visit my friend to create an alibi. I also had to go to the printers because I had an appointment there in the morning the next day. Of course, I forgot about it the day before, but... And then, finally, I could, you know, return home and go to sleep. And half an hour later, a journalist came at my door. I opened the door, and of course I was, you know, rather tired. I said, no, I'm not going to talk to you about this right now. And I closed the door. And the next day, they had a big headline, you know, Varg Vikernes is grieving. You know, I was as if I was grieving the death of my good friend. You know, I was like, what? And of course, this just shows how ridiculous the media is. You know, I killed the guy, and they just make big headlines that I was grieving because he was dead, my good friend. So it was, and of course, the next week, I was his big enemy. You know.
I first found out my Euron was dead by actually calling his mother. I mean, I tried to call him first at the shop. No answer. And I thought, well, maybe so, having dinner or so. So I called his mother, and she was like, her voice was like weird. I said, where is Euronymous? And she was like, no, he was killed this night. And I was like, what? Yeah, priest came to tell her, blah blah blah. And back then, I didn't know anything about Blackthorn and Varg doing that.
After I killed Ozet, the drummer of Mayhem phones me and says, you know that Ozet is dead? I said, yes. You know. And he said, like, good riddance, you know. He was just happy because of this conflict.
There's no reason to cry, is it, you know? I mean, well, he was a good friend of mine. He was in the band, in Mayhem. But I mean, as I said, like 1,010 times before, it might easily also have gone the other way, that Varg has been killed, you know. Could have, if Euron was into killing first, you know. So, well, I might seem careless about it, and I am, you know. I see no reason that I really should care about this.
We did not think it was Count Grishnak, so we were looking out. We were watching our backs.
At the time we had like some kind of verbal war kind of thing with the Finnish and Swedish, you know, black metal guys. So I thought it was maybe some of them. So of course I started, you know, acquiring guns and knives. But of course there was no attack.
I got this letter, I think it was from Sweden or something, with some pretty heavy threats of Euronymous. It was like Euronymous from that year till this year, and then just like rip. And that was posted before the murder. but it just reached me like the day before, or the day after. So I think like this is some people on the fucking killing spree, or some guy on the fucking killing spree, or some person on the fucking killing spree here. So when Euronymous was decked, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm up next. Or even Varg could be up next.
I had my own label at the time because I didn't want anything to do with them, so I just started my own label. Why should I want anything to do with Death Like Silence production when I didn't want anything to do with the people? So I started my own label, and the albums were done at the time. So I went to Oslo to pick them up, and while in Oslo, why not visit Gylve of Darkthrone? And maybe I wanted to give him a CD and all this, So, and I had a friend accompanying me, one of the guys I plotted with after the killing to get an alibi. So he was all shaky and nervous. And when we got to Gylve's place, we talked, and he probably understood what had happened. He's not, unlike most of the others, he's not dumb. He had this paranoia and was convinced that perhaps I was going to kill him as well. So, and the guy I brought with me, he was really nervous, So he probably thought that, okay, why is this guy nervous? Maybe they had some plans to kill me as well. Because he had read the newspapers as well, and perhaps believed or thought that perhaps it's true. Perhaps he wanted to take over and get rid of all the important people, And he was, of course, one of the important people. So, and we just talked about everything, talked about the killing and all of this. Of course, I didn't tell him that I did it. And when I was leaving, I said, "Oh, you want a CD, right?" "Oh, yes, you want a CD. Okay, come out. It's in the car." And he was like, "Oh, really?" So, when we were leaving his apartment, he brought a big axe. And he said, "Well, you never know." So he brought this huge two-handed fire axe to get a CD in the car, because he was really paranoid and confused.
I never really expected Varg, because I fucking told him I had this letter, and I was thinking of giving that letter to the police, okay? And the thing that Varg said was, "Don't do it." It's like, he was not putting an emphasis on it or anything like that. It was like, "Don't do it." And that's what I'm thinking. Why? I mean, if he'd done it, why the hell didn't he want me to bring some evidence to the police that maybe someone else did it? So then that was probably when he was in my house, and then I felt more certain that he did not do it. Still, I fucking brought the axe out. I mean, what the hell is wrong with that? I'm telling you, I was fearing people lurking in the forest around my house.
But of course, it's an amusing story, really. He brought a big axe, to walk 20 meters to the car and pick up a CD and go back. So this is funny.
The attorney I had was like, he thought that the church burning cases weren't important at all. So he didn't bother putting much energy into them, because he meant that this murder charge was the important charge. And of course that's correct. But because if you burn a church in Norway, you get like 1 or 2 years in prison, because that's just damaging property. And you get maybe 6 months extra because it's religious value or something. But if you kill somebody, you can get 21 years. So, but of course, in effect, they weren't angry that I killed that person. He was just a problem, pain in the ass anyway to them. What they were angry at was, of course, that they believed that I had burned or were responsible for all the burnings of these churches. That was their. So my attorney, I think, got it all wrong. We should have put as much energy into these church cases as the other cases.
Okay, I was in there for maybe 20 minutes. And the main question was like, well, things that I have said in the police report. Something like, well, one specific question was like, you said that Euronymous wanted to be treated as a king. His parents sitting there. I said, yes, of course, he did. You know, I could almost, you know, feel their ice in my back, you know. That was the truth, you know, and I should not tell the truth.
A Swedish mental patient testifying against me, who claimed in court that I had drunk her blood from her neck. And of course, the newspaper didn't mention with one single word that this was actually a mental patient. So the front page the next day was that, you know, the Count drank my blood.
Vikernes did some good albums at the end of the old days, which is priceless to this day. You know, that is black metal really.
The worldwide press got into it, and then it exploded. That was the time to shut up for us.
I think that is a major basic losing effect, that now it was brought into daylight and it should never go back really to the scene it once was. It's almost like you take a troll out of the cave and put it out into the sunlight and it explodes.
They just saw that black metal was going to be like the big thing, so they just started to play black metal. Oh, we want to play black metal now, and in our eyes, that didn't gain one bit of respect at all. I mean, they should stick with their original ideas, I think, because they started to play black metal because it became a trend, not because they was like black metalers in their heart, their true heart.
It's been put down to a level of understanding, even though it was understandable. It was something hostile and like you couldn't define it because it was something that was so threatening and new, and so I don't know, yet devilishly manipulating, even though like it was something tempting. But it's been set down on such a level that it's been like put into an understandable form for stupid human beings, that it's lost its own validity.
I didn't think our reactions was anything near strange. We were more like, this sucks, and what the hell is going on, and disillusion quickly filled the area that should have been filled with creative boosts.
But the thing that made this into a fucking trend was probably the props. It was a costume, and it was catchy. I mean, when death metal turned ugly, I mean, Sepultura or bands were starting to wear shorts and sneakers, and we play brutal death metal, but we look like surfers, you know? That's when we were putting our fucking foot down, like, we will have none of this. But in the end, it seems like we created a bigger trend, and I'm kicking myself for it. And the really bad thing that happened was black metal for us. Like, thrash metal was aggression, brutality. Death metal was more like twisted, insane. But black metal took a lot of that, but added atmosphere. And that was when what went wrong was a lot of bands starting out, maybe like 94, taking this thing further, was people just focusing on the atmosphere. And it added to the atmosphere, but when they focused on the atmosphere, they took the atmosphere away, because the thing that was dynamite with black metal was aggression, heritage from the 80s, and atmosphere. But these bands just took the atmosphere and then added to it like synthesizers, female vocals, triggered bass drums, beautiful production, solos, whatnot, you know. And then it's just a parody of itself, and then all the kids love it.
A lot of bands are very clean and playing nice music, being nice to the media, just sucking asses all over. So it's much more accepted today. It is. So, but that's the time we're living in now. You know, I think it was more magic to the whole thing. You know, in the early 90s, I guess, yeah.